Japan is famous throughout the world as a country of high technology and deeply moral values. The crime rate in this country is quite low. It is hard to believe that truly terrible crimes can be committed there. And yet, even in Japan, law enforcement officers sometimes have to investigate criminal cases that make normal people's blood run cold. The victim of one of the most brutal murders in the modern history of Japanese criminology was schoolgirl Junko Furuta. In the late autumn of 1988, four underage boys kidnapped a 16-year-old girl. The victim of the criminals was high school student Junko Furuta. The oldest of her kidnappers was 17 years old at the time of the crime. His name was Hiroshi Miyano. 3 friends of the organizer participated in the kidnapping: Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe. The criminals forcibly brought their victim to the home of Hiroshi Miyano's parents. From that moment on, Junko's life turned into a never-ending nightmare. The kidnappers forced the girl to call her relatives and say that she had left her parents' home voluntarily and was in a safe place with friends. Junko Furuto was introduced to Miyano's parents as the girlfriend of one of his accomplices. The kidnapped girl was held captive by the criminals from late November 1988 to January 4, 1989. The Miyano family home became Junko's prison. The kidnappers' parents quickly realized that the girl was a prisoner. They were kept from going to the police by the fact that Hiroshi was a member of the yakuza criminal group and promised to kill anyone who interfered with his affairs. From the very first day of her captivity, Furuta was subjected to regular rape, including in a particularly perverted form, beatings, and physical torture. The girl was punished for any misdemeanor, was not allowed to leave the house, and was kept for days without water or food. Junko Furuta begged Miyano's parents to help her escape or call the police. At times, she asked her abusers to simply kill her and stop all this already. The condition of the captive was steadily deteriorating due to numerous injuries and ongoing abuse. In the last weeks of her life, Junko could hardly move around the house on her own. It took her about an hour to crawl to the bathroom. On January 4, 1989, Miyano and her friends brutally beat the girl again. After that, the attackers poured gasoline from a lighter on Junko and set her on fire. As forensic experts would later establish, the girl died of pain shock. The next day, it was decided to get rid of the body. The corpse was placed in a large barrel and filled with cement mortar, after which it was taken to a construction site. The discovery of a body with traces of multiple sadistic tortures caused a wide public outcry. The Furuta case was called the case of the murder and cementing of a high school girl. Law enforcement officers managed to identify and detain the criminals fairly quickly. In Japan, juvenile justice was in effect during the events described. For this reason, representatives of official structures did not give detailed comments on the progress of the investigation and hid the identities of the criminals. For the first time, the real names and surnames of the killers appeared in the newspaper Shimbunchen, whose correspondents stated that the rights of people do not extend to animals. It was in this publication that the biographies of the criminals and many shocking details of the murder were published. Hiroshi Miyano and his accomplices began to cooperate with the investigation almost immediately. The underage sadists described in detail how exactly they tortured the girl. In their testimony, the defendants stated that the murder of Junko Furuta was not part of their plans. The criminals claimed that they did not realize until the moment of the victim's death how serious the injuries were. According to the killers, until the last moment they thought that Junko was pretending to be in so much pain and misery. At the time of the trials, all the criminals were minors. Despite this fact, they were tried as adults, to the full extent of local laws. The court found all 4 defendants guilty. For the torture and murder of Junko Furuta, the criminals received from 4 to 17 years in prison. The sentence seemed very lenient to the victims, the relatives of the murdered girl. Junko's parents even tried to appeal the court's decision. However, due to a number of circumstances, they were unable to do so. The main criminal, Hiroshi Miyano, served 17 years in prison. The first thing he did after his release was change his last name. His most active accomplice did the same. Apparently, the criminals realized that murders are committed in Japan, just like in any other country, but their crimes will never be forgotten by their compatriots.